Today's discussion will cover a broad range of topics, including Uganda's investment climate and emerging opportunities, strategies to facilitate private sector growth and investment, doing business in Uganda, trade, regional trade integration and market access, and Equity's role as an enabler of trade and investment, both locally and globally. And at the heart of our operations at Equity Bank is our role in financial intermediation. We are proud to actively support key GDP-driving sectors of the economy, including food and agriculture, trade and investment, manufacturing, tourism, health, extractives and minerals, among others. To the potential investors who have tuned in today, by working closely with government institutions and relevant agencies, we will help you to seamlessly set up and navigate the local business environment. It is this collaborative approach that ensures that both local and foreign investors can tap into Uganda's opportunities with clarity and confidence. As the second largest bank in Uganda by customer base, we are uniquely positioned to provide financial solutions and institutional partnerships that catalyze economic transformation. So today's webinar also serves as a precursor to the upcoming trade mission, which will take place in May, where we will be inviting stakeholders to physically explore Uganda's investment opportunities. So we encourage as many of you as possible to participate in this trade mission. It's a powerful opportunity to connect directly with local industries, policymakers, and fellow investors on the ground.
The main thing that we're seeing in terms of how our region is being affected is twofold. One is the focus on Africa. What we had found in the initial raft of tariffs is that Africa was quite focused on in terms of the tariffs above 10%. And Uganda and Tanzania weren't, but it began to signal that the Trump administration does have a focus on Africa. And then the second thing we're seeing is now shifting to some of the good news, that is actually beginning to have some net silver linings that I think, particularly in the business environment for Uganda and Tanzania, you can begin to leverage. So just as I wrap up, I just want to point out the silver linings, and I think some of the key things we're watching and seeing coming through to the rest of the quarter. One, expect low oil prices. Of course, for Uganda, eventually this will be a negative, but currently you're good. Until you start exporting oil and you want crude to be up, you're still going to be a net importer, and that's the same with Tanzania. We're going to be seeing the price of oil continue to go down, and this will bring a lot of relief, particularly on the inflation side of things and the cost of transport and logistics. The second big thing we're going to see is probably a weakening dollar. Particularly as we go into the quarter and we continue to see quite a bit of policy uncertainty and volatility coming out of the US administration, some of the net effects we're seeing there is a weaker dollar. So again, this is good news because if you have imports or you're really exposed to dollar from an import perspective, this will be useful. The third thing you can expect is continuing global disinflation. That means lowering inflation. Uganda and Tanzania have been quite fortunate. Your inflation is being managed very well, as food production has been quite robust. So I think for your countries, expecting a manageable inflation environment, which is very different from 1 or 2 years ago, is really quite welcome. And I think the final point I'm going to point out is exchange rate dynamics. We've seen a significant stabilization of the Ugandan shilling against the US dollar. There will be some pressure on depreciation there, but I think, again, compared to last year or the year before, we're seeing a much more stable exchange rate environment, particularly for both Uganda and Tanzania.
Uganda is steadily growing, and some of the areas that we have really anchored and proved that we are the destination to come into when you're entering into Africa. We've been ranked as the top investment destination in Africa and East Africa by the Annual Investment Awards in United Arab Emirates for the last 3 years. That is from 2023, 24, and 25. But also Uganda is the fastest growing economy in East Africa. This can be justified by the steady foreign direct investment that has been flowing into the country, For the last 5 years, since 2020, we've had a 4 growth fold within the FDI market. We've grown from US $666 million, and currently the FDI, as of 2024, stands at $2.8 billion US dollars. The third area that we could talk about is the market. As an investor, when you're looking at investing into any region, of course, your interest would be what is the market looking like. When you're investing into Uganda, you're not looking at only Uganda as a country, you're looking at the East African economy. The population currently in Uganda is approximately 47 million people. However, when we look at the East African region, we are 300 million people. So you're tapping into the 8 countries that are affiliated to the EAC region. And then also we are part of the Common Market and East African region, which is COMESA. And this has a population of 600 million people. But also, as my partners here, counterparts in Africa, in Private Sector Foundation Uganda, and then also Ministry of Trade will emphasize, we are part of the African Free Continental Trade Area, which has 54 African countries, and looking at a magnitude of $1.5 billion US worth of investment and the GDP across those countries. Uganda is an open economy. When we talk about openness of an economy, you can bring in your investments without any restriction as a foreign company. However, we also encourage you to partner with the domestic companies here in Uganda, but you can register fully as a foreign company and establish in Uganda with a partnership if you feel it's needed from the business aspect, but it's not restricted as a country. Uganda is among the top 10 industrial development countries, according to the African Development Bank 2023. And then also Uganda has been ranked as the 3rd most rewarding economy, that is in Africa, by the Oxford Economics 2023. Uganda's population is very interesting. Currently, as I've stated, we are 46 million people approximately. However, our average age is about 16.7 years. And of this population of 46 people, you will notice that 75% of this population is below the age of 30. That is 30 years. So if you're to look at such an economy, this confirms that the population is trainable, there is enough skill set that can be utilized, and this will help in growing the economy, especially in the sectors we are looking at attracting, and we are promoting as a country manufacturing and industrialization. Some of the sectors we are promoting, we focus on the national development plan of the country, and the key sectors we are promoting include agriculture. Uganda is an agro-based country, and it's agriculture driven. So we are looking at adding value to the various commodities and produce we have, focusing on some key products like coffee, cocoa, and then also we have cotton that we want to revamp. So along this, we want to add value to all those produces, but we are also looking at the machinery side, which is agriculture equipment, like assembling of such equipment, and then the essential input like fertilizers that go with the sector. We have the tourism sector. This is really, Uganda is naturally endowed. It's a beautiful country. We have opportunities in accommodation development, that is the infrastructure, looking at high-end lodges, but also the tour and travel sector. All these are opportunities that can be invested into.